Hi everyone, my name is Latimer and I'm currently an occupational therapy student at Boston University completing my doctoral capstone project on yoga for Parkinson's disease. I'm very excited to get started with our class today, and I'm going to be going over some safety recommendations and our setup for the class. So first things first, before you start class today, make sure that it's an appropriate time of the day for you to exercise. So that means that you are well rested and you've taken your medication for the day to manage your symptoms. Be sure to listen to your body throughout class, and if you feel any pain or discomfort in any poses, please stop where you are and get out of the pose or try a different variation that I will show throughout the class. And if the pain continues, consult your doctor or physiotherapist for some other options. As far as our setup for class, you will need a yoga mat or just a soft, comfortable surface for you to practice on. Some of the class will be in a chair, some of the class will be on the floor. So you want it to be squishy and comfortable enough for your knees and your joints as you get down on the ground. You will need at least one chair for class today, preferably a chair without arms, but if you only have a chair with arms, that will work perfectly fine. You will want a water bottle with you, and I encourage practicing next to a wall. As you can see, I will be doing. Throughout class, I'll be showing how we can use the wall for some of these exercises. If you don't have a wall that is available, I recommend a sturdy table or a second chair. And if you know that you don't want to get on the floor today, you'll want a second chair to do some of the postures seated using the other chair instead of getting on the floor. Some other equipment that you might use, props to help increase comfort in your practice, are yoga blocks. I have two. If you don't have a yoga block, you can use a book or stack of books to bring the ground closer to you. You could use a water bottle like what I have, or even a second chair to use as a yoga block and bring the ground closer to you. I will also be using a strap throughout our class today. This is what my yoga strap looks like. If you don't have a strap, you can use a bathrobe tie, which is what I have here, or even a belt. And lastly, I have a blanket, a yoga blanket, but you can use any blanket for while we get on the floor, especially for our knees if you've had any past knee injuries. Be sure to modify physical postures as needed today, especially balancing postures. If you know that you're feeling a little bit off today, take things easy and do what feels right. I recommend practicing barefoot, but if you feel more comfortable, you can have non-slip socks or non-slip shoes on too. And lastly, if you have a mirror in front of you, that may be helpful for some visual feedback to make adjustments as needed, but it's not necessary for the class. Lastly, for safety, please make sure that there is another adult at your residence, and if you are alone, just make sure that there's somebody you could call and contact in case anything happens. And I even encourage you to have your loved ones join these classes with you to add in that social component and that social support for these virtual classes. Thank you so much, and let's get started. All right, everyone, so we're going to get started with class today. We can get started in a comfortable seat in our chair, or if you'd like, we can try to sit in hero's pose on the floor. I recommend sitting on one or two blocks. It's long or small height on top of each other. And we're coming to sit on top of the knees, like so, right on top of our blocks. You can always roll up a blanket underneath as well and put it underneath. And this is stretching the top of the legs. If you want to stretch the feet too even, you can tuck the toes. This might not last very long since we're not used to stretching the feet this way. But finding a comfortable position here, sitting up nice and tall, rolling the shoulders back and down. Whether we're on the floor or on our chair, just making any last adjustments until we can settle here. allowing the eyes to fall closed, or maybe just softly bringing the gaze down towards the floor. Noticing the breath flowing in and out of the body, not trying to change it in any way, just noticing its natural rhythm. Maybe scanning the body here to notice how we feel right now, right in this moment. And noticing what we say to ourselves. How can we approach this practice with kindness, courage, honesty, and acceptance? Acceptance to empower ourselves, to push ourselves where we can. Also, acceptance of being where we are right now. And being honest with ourselves and not pushing ourselves too far. Three more breaths here. And from here, we can flutter the eyes open if we need so that you can see my demonstration. But we're going to come into an alternate nostril breath. So I'm going to face you so that you can see me. This may not work if you're feeling congested. And if so, I recommend coming into an ujjayi, that breath, or the diaphragmatic breath where you're really breathing into your belly. But if your nose is feeling nice and open, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be closing one nostril at a time to inhale and exhale. This helps clear the mind, and it also helps reduce anxiety and stress. And so let's get started. We're going to place the thumb onto our right nostril. And when we feel comfortable, we're going to close the right nostril completely. You can bring your pointer finger and middle finger up on the bridge of your nose and between your eyebrows if you'd like. And you're going to be using your ring finger and your pinky to close the left side nostril after one round of breath. So inhaling and exhaling through the right nostril or the left, and then we switch and inhale and exhale through the right. Let's try it together. Plugging the right nostril with the right thumb, taking a big inhale in through the left nostril, and exhaling out the left. Using your pinky and ring finger to switch, plugging the left nostril, right nostril's open. Inhale. And exhale. Plugging the thumb, left nostril opens. Inhaling. And exhaling. Plugging the left, breathing in through the right. Two more rounds. When we're ready, allowing the hands to rest wherever comfortable. And just taking 3 full breaths here. Noticing the quality and depth of the breath. When we're ready, on our next inhale, we'll start to flutter the eyes open. And from here, we're going to come into our 3 Om chants. You have the options to keep the arms on the thighs, or you can inhale, reaching out and up, and exhaling to Om on the way down, stretching to both sides of the room, spreading all 10 fingers. We're going to do 3 together as a class. Big inhale in through the nose. Two more. Big breath in. Think of projecting, being loud to everybody in the room. Last one, make it our best one, projecting from the diaphragm. Coming back to the natural breath here. And from here, we're just going to start to find some neck rolls. So allowing the left ear to fall towards the left shoulder. Chin comes to chest. And right ear towards the right shoulder. And just moving between the two. And coming back through center. Inhaling, shrugging the shoulders towards the ears. And exhaling back and down. Switching directions of this circle. We're going to come into those ribcage circles like we did last week. If you'd like to widen the stance a bit, we can. Hands can be on the hips or on the thighs. First, we're doing the ribs and then we're doing our hips. So thinking of moving with just the chest, you can even put your hands around your ribcage if that helps. And going around with the chest. Starting to create space, breathing deep into the lungs. And switching directions of this circle. Meeting back through center, hands come on the thighs this time, and this time we'll come into our hip circles. So with a wide stance, we're going to drop the chest towards the left knee, through center, and back up and around. Noticing how the weight shifts into the feet. Just being curious with each movement as we start to awaken the body. Switching directions of this circle. And with the theme of acceptance, especially during a strength class, just encouraging ourselves to bring this curiosity with the rest of our movements throughout class today. Exploring our limitations and embracing where we are. Meeting back through center here. We can bring the feet back together. We're going to start to warm up the upper body here. So arms go out in front of us, big hands. We're going to open and close for 20 seconds. So exaggerating at the beginning, spreading our 10 fingers as wide as we can. You can pick up the pace when you're ready. We have 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Shaking it out if you need to. This time on our inhale, we're going to inhale both arms up together. We're going to have our palms facing each other, and we're going to do puppet hands talking towards each other. If it's tough on the shoulders, you can always work on this same hand exercise right in front of us. Opening and closing our puppet hands. Powerfully pressing the thumb against all of our fingers. We've got 10, 9. I feel it in my forearms. Keep going. Breathe. 4, 3, 2, 1. Whew. Shake out the wrists here. We're going to come into some arm circles. So starting to warm up the shoulders. This is really great for posture. So arms come out to a T here. We're going to start with small circles going backwards. Reaching to both sides of the room through your fingertips. Relaxing the shoulders back and down away from the ears. We're going to start to make these circles a little bit bigger. We're slowly growing with each circle until we find ourselves starting to make big circles. For 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Shake out the shoulders, shake out the arms. One more round going forward this time. Finding any last minute movements or adjustments before we go to our last round of our wrist and our arm warm up. So arms come out to a T again, starting going forward this time with little circles. And still thinking about our posture here. So sitting up nice and tall, pressing the belly button towards the front of the mat. And breathing. Starting to make these arm circles a little bit bigger. Till we find ourselves in big arm circles for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Shaking out the arms and the legs. We did it. Taking a full breath here. Now we're going to start to wake up the hips a bit. So we're going to come into some pelvic tilts. And so from here, we're going to start to drop the tailbone towards the back of the chair to where we have a rounded lower body. And we're going to put our hands on our hips here. And on our inhale, we're going to press the belly button forward to tilt the hips up. And exhaling to tilt back. This is a subtle movement here. We're noticing the pelvis tilting back and tilting forward. And the next time our pelvis is tilted forward, we're going to keep this line between our hips and our chest, and we're going to slowly bring ourselves to the back of the chair. You can place your hands down if you'd like. So we have our seat on the edge of the chair and our back against the back of the chair here, and we're going to come into some core work. So thinking about there's a rope pulling you up with your chest. What naturally happens, and you can always try it, is usually we use our momentum in our shoulders to press ourselves up and round ourselves to get back up. So instead, I want us to use our core. So inhaling, lifting, lifting, lifting with the chest to come all the way up to sit. Alternating between these two, maybe even finding just some slight crunches. Even though this may look and feel like a simple move, is very effective. It's not easy. And the next time we go back, we're going to stay right here. And I want us to bring our hands to our hips, and we're going to start to march the feet one by one. So our back is resting on the backrest, and we're starting to march the legs. Flexing both feet here. And you can even place your hands on top of the hips here, just to feel what muscles are flexing as we march. As we lean back and as we start to engage the core while we march, the psoas is a big muscle responsible for lifting the legs. And the psoas is one of the largest muscles in the body. It connects our whole upper body with our entire lower body. So it's very important. And so you can almost imagine this psoas muscle that crosses over your hips. You can almost imagine what it looks like as it's flexing and activating, how it moves your legs. How does it feel on the inside, and how does it feel on your hands? If you'd like, we can try and hover off the back of the chair. We're still lifting with the chest, slightly leaning back. You can always start by hanging on to the chair while we do this at first. And then maybe hands come to hips or hands to heart center. Since we are leaning back slightly and thinking of lifting with the chest, we are using our core here quite a bit as we march. For 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Coming all the way to sit, finding any stretches or warm-ups, any leg shakes or arm shakes. And taking a full deep breath here. All right, we're going to be coming into one more leg warm up here. So we're going to place one block down on its small height underneath the right foot. Hands can be on the chair, on our hips, at heart center. Wherever feels comfortable, we're sitting up nice and tall. And we're going to inhale the left leg so that it comes in line with the right knee. Keeping the knee bent to start, flexing the left foot, inhaling to lift, and exhaling to lower. If you'd like an extra challenge, you can always straighten that left leg. And then just switching sides. The block comes under the left foot. Inhaling, right knee lifts. And exhaling, right foot lowers, and just moving between the two. Noticing what happens in other areas of the body as you start to lift that right leg. Does your posture start to round? How can we lift with the chest? Drop the shoulders. You always have the option to straighten the leg if you'd like. And meeting back to center, we can set the blocks. We're going to grab both blocks actually and place them on their tall height in front of the feet and come into our sun salutations. So our sun salutations are one breath per movement. It's meant to be almost like a moving meditation. And we've gone over this seated version of our sun salutation. And today I'm going to introduce the standing version of the sun salutation if you would like to try that today. So if you want to stay with the seated version, depending on how you're feeling, if you're feeling lightheaded or off balance, I recommend staying seated. If you want to go for it and try the standing version, you can try that with me. They're both very similar. I'll have both videos up so that you guys can follow along, but the cues should generally be the same. So whether we're starting in our chair, or how about we all start in our chair here, we're just going to come into a forward fold. So we'll walk the feet out slightly, find where our hips are comfortable in our chair. And we'll slowly start to hinge forward. Hands come to blocks, head hangs heavy here. Maybe shaking the head no, or nodding the head yes to release any tension in the neck. And on our next inhale, we'll come to a halfway lift. So we're extending through the spine. Gaze is towards our mat. And exhaling, forward fold. Inhaling, we'll slowly roll up one vertebra at a time. And then we're going to come into our sun salutations. So staying seated or coming to stand, we have both blocks on their tall height in front of us, wherever we're at. We're going to take a big, deep inhale, reaching both arms out and up. And exhaling, folding forward, hands come to blocks. We can always have a deep bend in the knees here, especially towards the beginning of class. Inhaling, hands come to blocks, extending through the spine. And exhaling, forward fold. Inhaling, sweeping both arms up, chair pose, Utkatasana. Think of drawing the belly button in. And exhaling, powerfully standing. Inhaling, reaching both arms up. And exhaling, forward fold. Inhaling, halfway lift. And exhaling, fold. Inhaling, sweeping both arms forward and up, Utkatasana, chair pose. And exhaling to stand, mountain pose, arms at our sides. Inhaling, sweeping both arms out and up. And exhaling, forward fold. Inhaling, halfway lift. And exhaling, fold. And as we're moving here, listening to our bodies, being close to a wall for support or balance, or coming back to those seated sun salutations if we need. Inhaling, sweeping both arms forward and up, Utkatasana, chair pose, keeping the weight back in the heels. And exhaling to stand, arms come at our sides, mountain pose. One more round, inhaling, both arms reach out and up. And exhaling, hinging at the hips, folding forward. Inhaling, halfway lift. And exhaling, fold. Inhaling, chair pose. And exhaling to rise, arms at our sides. Tadasana, mountain pose, or maybe we are in seated mountain pose. I'm just taking 3 breaths here. Noticing how we feel after our sun salutations, noticing the warmth we've built in the body. And from here, if we're still in our standing mountain pose, we're going to come to sit on the chair. We're going to come into our chair series, and I've introduced the block in the past before. You can always put the block in between the thighs. Since this is a strength class, I do recommend having a block in between the thighs to help remind your quads and your hips to squeeze towards the midline as we come into this chair flow. So we can always start with our hands on the edge of the seat if needed. We're going to inhale, start to shift the weight forward into the feet, maybe so much so that the seat can hover above the mat. Again, what happens is sometimes we arch in our lower back, so thinking of drawing the belly button in to tuck our hips underneath us. Weight is in the back of the heels, and maybe we're just shifting between hovering and coming down. Squeezing that block with our legs, feeling the legs start to warm up and activate. Maybe we'd like to try to powerfully come all the way up to stand. Sending the hips back, fighting gravity on our way down, using the resistance of gravity to help strengthen the legs. And sometimes moving slower does not mean easier. So we're either hovering or we're coming all the way up to stand, going as slow as we can on the way down, feeling every micro movement in the feet and the ankles, all the way up the legs, through the hips. And just being curious. If you've been coming to stand, this time on our way down, I challenge you to try and hold your chair just an inch or two above the seat. If you come down, that's perfectly fine. We're drawing the belly button in, gaze is forward. And just breathe. Noticing where we're hanging on to tension in the face and the jaw. And I know this is challenging, maybe even finding a smile here in these challenging points. And what are we saying to ourselves? One more breath. On our next exhale, sending the hips back in the seat. You can shake out the legs if we need to after that one. We've got one more to come to stand. So hands are wherever comfortable. Inhaling, shifting forward into the feet and powerfully pressing up to stand. Squeezing the kneecaps, squeezing the block here. Tadasana, mountain pose. So from our mountain pose, we can always stand up against the wall, aiming to touch the back of the head, the back of the shoulders, the arms, the hips, and the legs against the wall. Or maybe we're standing behind our chair, squeezing the blocks in towards midline, squeezing the kneecaps to lift the thighs, drawing the belly button in. And mountain pose is a great chance to use a mirror that's close by if you have one, to look at your alignment. Maybe trying to find it yourself. And once we feel like we've come into an upright standing posture, we're engaging the upper back muscles to stand up nice and tall, engaging the legs. And once we've felt this in our bodies and imagined what it looks like, then we can use a mirror to see if is there a disconnect with how my body is moving and how I think it's moving. And that's where yoga is a great place to practice if there is a disconnect. I believe yoga is an opportunity to practice mindfulness techniques, breathing techniques, your thought patterns in these unique poses that we find ourselves in, these unique and challenging poses. What are we saying to ourselves? How can we accomplish and learn and grow by using our breath, using our mind, using the tools that are within us? Letting go the fear, anxiety, doubt, and just being open and compassionate with ourselves, being curious, the theme of this class. All right, so we're going to start to come into some of our standing postures. Some of these are balancing as well. So listen to your body, listen to what you need here. We can take that block in between the thighs and set it down. And come to take 2 breaths here behind our chair in mountain pose. All right, so next we're going to come into crescent moon. So crescent moon is mostly a core exercise. You can do it seated if you'd like. If you are doing it standing, I'm going to invite you to bring that block again in between the thighs to help remind you to squeeze towards the middle. So whether you're doing this standing or in a chair, inhaling, both arms come up overhead. And exhaling, arms fall towards the right. We're planting that left foot down in the mat, drawing the belly button in, squeezing the block if we're standing. And we're pressing the palms of our hands towards each other, lifting the chin to expose the neck, making sure we're breathing here. And inhaling, coming back through center, keeping the arms up if you can to strengthen. One more big breath. And exhaling over towards the left. Right foot plants down into the mat here. We're opening up the right side body, lifting with the chest, squeezing the palms together, and breathing here. Inhaling, coming back towards center. And exhaling, arms come out our sides, shaking them out if we need to. We're going to do one more on each side. So on our next inhale, reaching both arms up. And exhaling over towards the right. Maybe gazes up towards the sky. Inhaling back up through center. And exhaling over towards the left. Inhaling through center. And exhaling, relaxing the arms. Whew, good work, everybody. Whether you are seated or standing, that is not easy. We'll put the block back to the side for good now this time. And we're going to come to the front of our chair for some more standing postures. So in front of our chair, we're going to come into a warrior one type of flow. So if you would rather just hold your warrior one and focus on the balancing and the strengthening of your legs in a holding position, I recommend you can come behind your chair and hang on to the back of the chair. I'm going to be using the wall a little bit more throughout this flow. So if you're next to a wall, I recommend being close to it. Now I'm going to be in front of the chair for our flow. We're going to put a block on top of the chair to grab. And from here, we're going to take a big step forward with our right foot, both pointing towards the chair. The back foot is going to come to a 45-degree angle. Both hips are pointing toward the front of the room here. You can always make that self-adjustment. What happens is this left hip usually likes to open up, so we can place the hands on our hips, and you can almost have like finger holsters. You want both hip tip points to be pointing towards the front. Drawing the belly button in here. We're going to start to bend through that front knee. You can always use the wall here for extra balance. Arms maybe come towards heart center in our prayer position. And this is it. Virabhadrasana 1, Warrior 1. So we have the opportunity to hold here if we'd like. Otherwise, we're going to start to bend and extend that front knee. Bend and straighten. And the next time we find the right knee bends, we're going to hold there. And we're going to go ahead and grab that block. We're going to hold the block like so between both palms. And on our next inhale with the right knee bent, we're going to reach forward with that block and up overhead. As we reach up overhead, we're going to straighten that right knee. And exhaling, block comes behind the head, bending the elbows. Inhaling to reach up. And exhaling, bending the knee, block comes towards chest. Keeping the knee bent, inhaling, reaching forward and up. And exhaling to straighten, bending the elbows, block comes behind the head. Inhaling, block reaches up. And exhaling, block to chest, bending in through that right knee. 2 more rounds on each side. Inhaling, or on this side, to reach forward and up. Straightening the right knee, exhaling, bending the elbows, block behind the head. Inhaling to straighten. And exhaling, bending through the right knee, block to chest. One more. Setting the block back down on the chair, taking one more breath in our warrior one. Then using the wall or using the chair, we'll step the feet back together, shake out the legs if we need to. And then we're gonna go ahead and switch sides. So left foot plants, right foot takes a step back foot's at a 45-degree angle. Both hips are pointing towards the front of the room. And we're just gonna start to bend through that left knee here. Drawing the belly button in, hands to heart center. Just holding here, Virabhadrasana 1, Warrior 1. If you did the flow with me on the other side, I invite you to do it on this side. It's going to be exactly the same. The only difference is now we're doing, I guess you can call it like a picture frame. We're going to have all 10 fingers spread here, and the block is going to be placed in the L of your fingers. And if you don't have a block, you can still do these movements and just think of squeezing towards the middle as if you had a block. So we have our picture frame, big hands here, bending in through the left arm. We're going to inhale, reaching forward and up, and straightening the left leg, exhaling to bend the elbows behind the head, inhaling to straighten, and exhaling, bending through that front knee, block to chest. 3 rounds. Inhaling, reaching forward and up, straightening the left knee, exhaling, bending the elbows, block behind the head, inhaling to straighten, and exhaling, bending through that left knee, block to chest. 2 more rounds. And noticing we're working on postural exercises with this block, but we are also bending and straightening through this front knee a lot, so we are working on strengthening the legs. Listen to your body. Maybe we come to a seat and we just work on the block activity. Maybe we're ditching the blocks and we're just focusing on strengthening the legs. Using your own yoga practice in your body today to get what you need out of it. 2 more rounds, wherever we're at. Inhaling, reaching forward and up. Extending that front leg. Exhaling, block behind the head. Inhaling, reaching up. And exhaling, bending through that left knee. Block can come rest on the seat. Taking 1 breath in our warrior 1. From here, hands to the wall or the chair. We can bring both feet together and shake out the legs here. Shake out the arms. Find anything you need until we meet facing our chair at the front of it in mountain. So from our mountain pose, we're going to come into a warrior 3 pose, which is a balancing pose. And we're also going to add a strengthening component to it. So this is really where listening to ourselves comes in. We're going to be using our chair for our balance. So you can still make sure that you're close to a wall if you're worried. And try and find that sweet spot, that happy medium between getting out of our comfort zone and strengthening and working on our balance, especially if there is a fear of falling. Know that you are in a safe spot, a safe environment to practice some of these things and strengthen that balance in your body, but also strengthen that muscle in your mind that tells you, I don't know if I can do this, that fear, anxiety, doubt. We're strengthening that muscle to say, no, I can do this. But finding that balance between ease and effort. Before we get into a warrior three, I want you all to watch me. This is what the final expression is going to look like. Hands are on the chair, one foot is down, and we are lifting one leg back behind us, keeping this hip pointed towards the floor. So before we come into it, I want us to imagine first. You don't have to close the eyes, especially while we're standing. Please don't. But just soften the gaze, almost like we're meditating. And imagine exactly each step, what it's going to feel like. So we're not doing anything right now. We are just imagining ourselves. We are going to be placing the hands on the seat, reaching that right leg or whichever leg back behind us. And we're going to be in one long line energetically, strengthening the back body because we're lifting the chest, strengthening the standing leg. And noticing in our imagination all the air and space around us. What muscles are we engaging? If we lose our balance, what way will we step or fall? How can we bring ourselves back to center? And starting to come into it here, we're going to go ahead and bring both hands onto the seat of the chair and stepping both feet back as much as feels appropriate. We want our feet to be directly underneath the hips. So you know you've stepped too far back if you notice your hips go straight to the floor and you notice you haven't stepped far back enough. If your hips are reaching back behind your ankles. So finding that sweet spot. And coming back to what we imagined how this was going to feel as we start to lift the right leg back behind us, flexing the foot. Notice what muscles we're activating. Observe in the body where we're maybe shaking, any micro movements in the ankles and in the feet, in the arms. And we are here. This is our warrior three. So we can hold our warrior three if we'd like. We can always bend the knee to have a shorter lever if we need to as well. And we're going to hold at the end, but for now, if you'd like to find some leg lifts, we're going to tap the right toes down and inhaling to lift. Exhaling to tap and inhaling to lift. Keeping that right hip pointed towards the mat here. Making sure we're breathing. How different does this feel compared to what you imagined? Next time we inhale, that right foot comes back. Maybe we play with the balance a little bit here. Maybe we lift one arm at a time. Maybe we lift both arms. Hands come back down to the seat. Feet step together, shaking out the legs, shaking out the arms. Finding whatever we need here until we switch sides. And so just taking a quick moment here. We know what it felt like on the right side. How is it going to feel like on the left? What exactly are we going to do? Where are we going to stretch and lengthen? What muscles are we activating? And let's do it. So both hands come down to the seat. Feet are under the hips. And when we're ready, we'll inhale the left leg behind us this time. Left hip is pointing down towards the mat. Maybe we stay here. Again, you always have the option to bend the knee. Maybe we find our toe taps. Inhaling to lift and exhaling to lower. And the next time we inhale our left leg back behind us, we'll hold here, drawing the belly button in. We can always have the hands on the seats. We can play around with having one hand at a time on the seat, or maybe play around with hands to heart center, airplane wings. Wherever we're at, hands come to seat, feet come together, shaking out the legs here. We're going to come to meet on all fours. So bringing a blanket underneath the knees. And coming into this tabletop position here. And finding any circles that feel good in this tabletop position. And switching the direction. Inhaling, dropping the belly, lifting the gaze for cow. And exhaling, rounding out, tucking in the chin for cat. One more round. Coming back to that neutral spine, we're going to come to meet all the way on our bellies. We can move the blanket up towards the chest if that feels best. And move the chair out of the way if you need. And we're going to bring our blocks again. We are doing lots of block work, especially with the strengthening class. And we're going to reach out in front of us. Inhaling, lifting the gaze, maybe lifting the block up overhead. And exhaling, releasing down. Inhaling, lifting, peeling the chest open, lifting the arms in the block. And exhaling, releasing down. I'm going to scoot my mat over. This time on our inhale, if you'd like, you can hold that block. Or on our inhale, we peel the chest off, we lift. Maybe we swim the block all the way around and grab it behind our low back and reach back up. Exhaling to release down. Inhaling, lifting the block. Maybe we hold here, or maybe we switch sides, going all the way around, passing the block. This is great for our posture. And releasing down. 2 more rounds. Inhaling to lift. We can hold here or swim that block around. And exhaling to release. Last one. Inhaling to lift. Holding or swimming that left block around. And exhaling to release. Hands come at our sides. We'll slowly press ourselves up to sit to one side and swing the legs around. We're coming all the way onto our backs. So feel free to move your blanket underneath your head here. And settling on our backs, we can inhale both knees into the chest And start to draw circles with the knees, massaging the low back. Switching the directions of this circle. And both feet come to plant on the ground. Arms are at our sides, palms down. We can bring a block in between the thighs, just like we did in our chair and mountain pose. We're going to come into a bridge pose. So pressing in through the feet and the hands to lift the hips, squeezing the blocks, or the block. And exhaling, releasing down. If you'd like to, we can stick with this traditional bridge, squeezing the block in between the thighs. If you'd like to try a single leg bridge with me, that's where we're going next. Arms are at our sides, palms down. We're planting the left foot in the middle of the mat, and we're going to inhale the right leg up towards the sky. So we're flexing the right foot up. And then our inhale, we press through the hands and the left foot and think about punching that heel up towards the sky. Exhaling, hips come down. And inhaling to lift. Thinking about pulling that left foot towards the chest to engage the thigh, the left thigh. And releasing the hips down, releasing the right leg down. Shaking out the legs if you need, and just switching sides so we can always stay with our traditional bridge. You did the other side, we inhale the left leg up overhead. And then pressing in through the right foot and the hands to lift the hips, thinking of driving that left heel up towards the sky. And exhaling, coming down. We can move between this bridge. If you would rather hold, you can. One more wherever we're at. And releasing the left foot down, inhaling the knees into the chest one more time. Our feet go as wide as the mat here, and we're just going to start to windshield wipe the knees from side to side. When we're ready, legs go long and with the feet wide. Arms are a couple feet away from our body. Palms up. And allow the body to settle here. Our final relaxation or shavasana. The eyes can draw closed, or maybe we soften the gaze. Coming back to the breath. Coming back to that intention we set at the beginning of our practice. The acceptance. Exploring. Expanding. Our own limitations. But also accepting them. So being curious with ourselves to get out of our comfort zone, challenge ourselves, but also be honest. And accepting where we are today, right now in this moment, accepting our limitations. And while we practice that in our yoga class today, Where could we practice this in our daily lives? Taking a few more deep breaths here. And if you have more time at home, I recommend spending 5 to 10 more minutes in this Shavasana pose. Otherwise, if you're coming out with me, we'll start to wiggle the toes and fingers, rock the head from side to side. We'll go ahead and inhale, one arm up overhead, feet come onto the mat, bending the knees. And on our exhale, we'll roll over to whatever side we reached our arm up to come into a fetal position, using that arm as the pillow. And from here, we'll use the top hand to slowly press ourselves up to a comfortable seat here. Taking a moment to thank ourselves for carving the time out of our day for our yoga practice, and taking the time to honor our bodies for all it allowed us to do throughout this practice today. The light within me honors the light within each of you. Namaste.